Okay, let's see.
That big overview video for Ashes of Creation. 2.6 million views, the hype train's still rolling, and 2 years worth of development updates later, I decided to make an updated version of that video. So grab a cup of tea, sit back and relax whilst I explain to you why Ashes of Creation is still, by far, the most exciting upcoming MMORPG. This video has no sponsor and took a solid 40 hours of writing, recording and editing. So if you'd like to support my work and plan on playing Ashes when it releases, then click my referral link in the description below or use my code to create an account.
I have that too, by the way. I think it's
Ashes
below the
of
stream.
Creation is the biggest upcoming Western MMORPG in terms of scope, hoping to provide fans of PvP, PvE and roleplay content an ever-changing virtual world in which the progression
I think like the theory behind the game is pretty good. Like what they're trying to make makes sense. Like I think this, if they can pull through with all of this, it could be really good. But the pulling through part is the problem, you know?
of each server is completely different and dependent on the actions of the player base. Ashes started development back in 2016 in Unreal Engine 4, however at the end
there's two engravings, one second, there's two engravings that are kind of underrated on Surgeblade. One is Awakening, but that would only be on level 1 or maybe level 1 or level 2 as a 6th engraving. And Side Focus, if you have a level 10 Surge Gem.
2021 upgraded its engine to Unreal 5 to make use of the latest advancements in gaming tech such as Nanite, Lumen, and a more efficient development pipeline. In terms of funding, the game was successfully kickstarted in 2017, however the vast majority of the game's funding comes from creative director Steven Sharif, a successful entrepreneur who, like most of us, has been a lifelong MMO fan that was unhappy with the current state of the MMO genre. Ashes of Creation is fully funded to completion, and despite offering paid access to alpha and beta tests, is not reliant on these funds to finish development. This game will have zero pay to win, a cosmetic only cash shop with no convenience items, and a $15 per month subscription fee business model with no box cost.
How do you guys feel about the business model? Obviously, they already have a billion skins and FOMO shit that is super annoying. But I think a $15 sub fee, no pay to win, no box cost is really good. I think that's really good. But then again, will a sub fee model work nowadays? I'm gonna be very curious how that will actually play out, because I think almost every game, even fighting games, like, what is it, Multiverses launched free to play? So I don't know how well that will translate nowadays. But I still think it's the best business model.
MMOs can usually be put into 3 categories: sandbox, theme park, or sand park. An example of a theme park MMO would be Final Fantasy XIV or WoW, an on-rails story-driven experience with a lot of scripted instanced content, heavily reliant on developers constantly adding new raids, dungeons, and gear treadmill content to keep people playing. An example of a sandbox MMO would be EVE Online, a game that's almost entirely player-driven. You need to create your own goals and find your place within a player-driven ecosystem, typically joining alliances or guilds to take over land and control resources. These games are less reliant on developer-created content, as the interaction between players is the content, and it's different every time.
I completely think this is the best way to design an MMO, is that it's not on rails. The storyline is still there, but you need to find it, right? You need to read the quests, you need to find hints about the lore around the world, and the real content is like, the real story is what players make it, you know? And I agree. I think that's a good approach.
A sand park MMO is basically a hybrid of theme park and sandbox. There's a lot of player-driven content, however there's also developer-created scripted encounters such as raids and dungeons. This is the category of MMO that Ashes of Creation falls into, and personally it's my favourite type of MMORPG. So what makes Ashes of Creation unique?
Spamming.
How does this game innovate to push the genre forwards? And why should you be excited for this MMO over all the others that have released and failed over the past 15 years? Ashes of Creation's biggest innovation, in my opinion, is its node system, and it's this system that ensures that no two
and this system that I don't think will ever fucking see the light of day, because this is way too much fucking work and there's no shot in the universe this is gonna be good. Like, I think, like, if they manually create every single node on the server with storylines, bosses, either it will be just a whole lot of copy paste and most things are very similar, or it's just gonna take 15 years to make.
servers will ever be the same. Basically, when the game launches, the world will be empty. However, over time, camps, villages, towns, cities, and sprawling metropolises will pop up in locations where players earn XP from killing mobs, gathering, or doing quests. There'll be over 100 nodes scattered throughout the world at launch, and each node will have a different layout and appearance depending on the race that contributed the most XP to it, as well as the buildings the mayor decides to place. So if, for example, orc players contributed the most XP to a node, the node will then have an orcish aesthetic. The same is true for every other race in the game.
I don't see this working,
and these
guys.
racial aesthetic changes are applied to the node every time it's leveled up. So a town could start with an elven aesthetic, but if dwarves contributed the most XP to progress it to the city stage, it would then change to a dwarven theme. So what happens when every node in the game is leveled to max? Well, that can't happen. Building up one node to a city, for example, will lock out adjacent nodes from reaching the same level, which in turn also locks or unlocks various quests, dungeons, or bosses.
I think this
players will have to initiate.
In theory, this is great. In theory, this is Pog. Then after a while, it will be boring, maybe. In theory, so this is how it works. Okay, I'll explain it again. Okay. What happens is, there will be different different pieces of land, okay? And these, if the players like log wood or kill monsters, do quests, whatever the fuck they do in that node, in that area, then you will level up the area just by doing your shit, okay? And then you can level that up so the town becomes a city, the city becomes a metropolis, and so on. And that also includes, you will also maybe create dungeons in the world, or a volcano, or whatever the fuck. That's why I think this is way too complex to ever work, because if they want to make this truly interesting, they probably have to handcraft every node's level in the entire game, and that's gonna be hella fucking rough to do, I think. So, I don't know. And what if players quit the game? I mean, I have no idea what happens when no one does anything. I have no idea.
Node sieges to de-level a node if they wish to progress adjacent nodes. Nodes come in 4 different node types: militaristic, scientific, divine, or economic, each of which have their own special perks.
I think this is
further variety.
Like a super fucking cool idea, which makes every server cool and different, and every experience will be different. But at the same time, I think it's almost impossible to make like feel impactful, and that every node is different
into this system. Like I said, the node system is designed so that no 2 servers will be the same. If you take a break from the game for a few months, you could come back and the location of all major cities is completely different. Different taxes, buildings, different mayors voted to be in charge of the node, and different node racial aesthetics. No other MMORPG has ever done this before, and we've already seen this system working up to the village stage in last year's Alpha 1
I don't think there will
test.
be that many bots in a sub-fee game. Obviously there still will be bots.
On top of the node system also lies the node political system, where players compete to become the node's mayor. The process of how this is done varies depending on the node type. Scientific node mayors are voted for democratically, militaristic node mayors are chosen by victory in a last man standing tournament.
Gonna be me.
Economic node leadership is sold to the highest bidder, and divine node governance is given to the player that completed the most node quests. Once a mayor has been decided, decided, they can set the tax rate and decide which building projects to pursue. The only way to remove a mayor is by destroying the node via the node siege mechanic. Bad mayors will exist, yes, they will cause drama, and this is all by design, as any virtual world has good guys and bad guys. Some nodes will naturally die out and de-level due to an inactive mayor, others will need to be taken out by force, some mayors might tax their citizens so hard that everyone leaves and there's no money for upkeep. This is all intended with the design principle of actions having consequences.
I like that. I like that you're not protecting the player. I hate that when the games do that. Oh, my poor player. Oh, you voted the wrong mayor. Have this little compensation pack and you have a... Fuck that. I like that. I like that. If there's a bad mayor, you just say, fuck you, bitch. I'm gonna go to a different node. You know, I like that design. I think that's good. Yeah. Make MMO grading a Neeko2lo MMO.
The final thing worth mentioning about nodes is the citizenship and player housing systems tied to it. Once a node reaches village stage or higher, player housing then becomes available. There's 3 types of player housing: real space in node housing, real space freeholds, which are basically plots of land within the node's zone of influence, and instance to node apartments. Players who have invested into any of these types of player housing can then register to become citizens of the node.
You can kill anyone in this game.
Various benefits listed on screen.
It's also cool, I think.
You can only become a citizen of one node at a time per account, so this is an important decision designed to make players want to invest in and defend their node. Nodes are not owned by guilds, and the more people that register for citizenship at a single node, the more expensive it becomes for future citizens to join. You will lose citizenship if your node is destroyed in a node siege. In addition, you will also lose your player housing and a portion of the resources stored in your node's warehouse. So it's really in your best interests to defend and invest in the node that you're a citizen of. Another completely unique thing Ashes of Creation is bringing to the MMO genre that has never been done before is its season technology. This was recently shown off and working in a dev livestream, but basically every 1 or 2 weeks, certain biomes will change seasons from spring, summer, autumn or winter. In doing so, the appearance of monsters might change, there will be buffs or debuffs to your character, dungeon entrances or mountain pass.
We saw a little bit of this in the I think second to last update about the seasons, and that actually looks also really good. I think the best thing so far is probably the seasons like developed, that's already developed, you know? That they actually look pretty nice.
Might become frozen over or inaccessible.
I think that's a cool idea too.
Some gatherable resources might become unavailable during certain seasons, which might have an economic impact, and there'll also be different weather effects depending on the season. This, coupled with the ever-changing node system, gives Ashes of Creation the potential to be the MMORPG that has the most interesting, immersive and evolving world we've seen out of any MMO to date. You leave the game, log in a few weeks later, the node has changed, the season has changed, new events and quests have spawned. It'll feel like you've zoned into a completely new location. On the PvE side of things, something I find especially interesting with Ashes of Creation is how content such as dungeons and raids will have adaptive difficulty based on the performance of the party against previous bosses. So let's say your group absolutely steamrolls the first boss in a dungeon or raid. The next boss will then scale to be more difficult, unlocking additional mechanics and as a result drop better loot. In addition, node development also has a big impact on PvE difficulty and content availability too. You could probably abuse that somehow. The higher the node level, the higher the level of mobs in the surrounding area. Perhaps there's a dungeon with 5 bosses inside, however the 4th and 5th boss rooms only become accessible once the node has developed to city or metropolis stage. Additional mechanics and higher loot potential could also be
dungeons here are mostly, as far as I understand it, dungeons and Ashes are mostly open world. So it's going to be interesting how that works and how they make that interesting, because I think that in theory that's perfect, but in reality normally open world dungeons are always just a steamroll with where people just run in and fucking corpse run, you know? So we'll see what happens.
Behind the leveling of nodes. Obviously this will take a lot of balancing, but I like the direction they're going in when it comes to PvE difficulty. If they get it right, dungeons and raids could become infinitely difficult based on performance, which could also open up the potential for competitive PvE leaderboards if there was some kind of performance rating added on top of this system. Although Ashes of Creation won't be the first MMO to introduce a caravan system, shout out to Silk Road Online, it's certainly not a common thing we've seen in any of the other top MMOs in recent years. I think the last MMO to have something like this was Arcade. Storage in Ashes of Creation is not global. Warehouses where you store your items will be local to each node, and gatherable resources for crafting will be more or less plentiful.
I just want to mention, I think like they put a lot of friction into the game, right? They put a lot of friction into things. The storage isn't global. You need to use these caravans to like transfer a lot of goods from city to city, which then creates like a point of interest in the map where people then fight over that, and maybe there will be bandits. Maybe people will hire like bodyguards so they don't get robbed and shit. I think this is also a really cool idea. I think this creates dynamic events, you know, because this is an event that a player starts, and for most people it's probably not even an event because they don't care. They don't want to rob it. But then other people will be like, oh, someone got a caravan there. Oh, let's get a group together. You know, that could be cool. But again, like, it's about the execution at the end, right? We'll see.
Based on biome or region. This means that players will be able to take advantage of localized economies by transporting goods from one region to another based on supply and demand. This is done through the caravan system. Let's say you're a citizen of a node located in the desert biome. People need a lot of wood for crafting, but it's hard to come by in the desert.
Yeah, Arcade,
you travel to the forest, spend a few hours collecting or buying wood from other players, then you want to transport it back to the desert to sell on for profit or use yourself. You can go to the storage at the forest node and spawn a personal caravan
and like you get like wood in the south, like you get palm trees and coconuts, and then you use a caravan and you go all the way from there to, I don't know, the northern winter zone, and you can sell it there for a lot of gold because no one has coconuts and fucking palm trees over there, you know. So that's also, I think, a cool idea. I mean, it makes sense. But again, guys, okay, this will take a long time, I think. I like, if I had to guess right now how long this game will need to release, 5 years.
To then transport those goods. In doing so, the area around the caravan will become a moving open world PvP zone, in which players can choose to either attack or defend the caravan. There's incentives for either side. This is a risk versus reward system in which you could potentially lose your stuff if your caravan is successfully raided.
You can breed mounts.
The whole existence of the caravan system also opens up the possibility for players to become mercenaries.
Yeah, I think the difference to BDO trading is, though, BDO trading is NPC. Right, this is they're trying to make this player trading, right? So that you'd want to sell something to people up in the north that want palm trees, not an NPC that takes it off of you, you know. But I'm worried about the gameplay and mechanics. Yeah, everyone is. I think
services to players wanting to transport their goods for coin,
I think it's a good,
which is also pretty cool.
Like, keep the game like high standard, you know. Don't be like, oh yeah, this looks okay. Just give them feedback, okay? Like, I think this has the chance to be a really good game, but if everyone just grows complacent and they're like, oh well, it's okay, I guess, or you're hyping dumb shit, right? Keep your standards.
Monster coin events are a multiplayer horde defense activity that can take place at nodes. These events must be triggered by something significant happening in the surrounding area, such as node advancement, the death of a world boss, or constructing a certain building in the node. During a monster coin event, players must choose to either attack or defend. Attackers can use monster coins to transform into a monster and attack key objectives in the node, whilst defenders must defend against the attacking horde of monsters. enemies. Monster coin events cannot de-level a node, however they can kill important NPCs or disable buildings at the node for a while if the attackers
You can
are
transform into a
successful.
monster.
Monster coins can be obtained via rare drops in-game, and the rewards for this activity
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of combat rework last time, or was it 2 months ago? Which was honestly way better than before. And it was all, I almost want to say it's probably even good enough if the stats and like the layers on top of that are good, right? Obviously we just saw very basic combat. Maybe we'll see it probably. This game is huge. Other stuff. Roleplay the world. Here, classes and combat will be at the end. But generally speaking, the combat system just needs to feel rewarding and satisfying and fluid. That it allows for, you know, skill expression and build expression, and that's already gonna be enough if the rest of the game is good, right? Like as long as it feels good to press your buttons, and as long as there's depth to it, and a lot of builds, because this is a game that I think will live and die by how you can customize your skills and stuff, then I think it's already fine, honestly.
Entirely cosmetic. The final point I want to make when it comes to what makes Ashes of Creation so unique,
because we've only seen very basic
is the sheer
combat,
scope
right?
of the game. When you combine all the features and innovations this game will have, it's surely going to be the biggest fantasy MMO ever made to date. 9 different playable races, both with male and female
Holy
options.
shit, the dwarves are fucking ugly. I like different races too. I don't know why a lot of MMOs stopped doing this. Why did a lot of MMOs stop doing that?
This game will have, it's surely going to be the biggest fantasy MMO ever made to date. 9 different playable races, both with male and female options.
I like this guy. I might actually play this guy. What are these called? Vec? Are these Vec?
480 square kilometer world size at launch, fully open world game where you can go from one side of the map to the other, no loading screens. Dungeons.
I also like no loading screens.
Raids, world bosses, open world PvP with a criminal system, caravan PvP, castle sieges, node sieges, arenas, duels, guild wars, crafting and artisan system, monster coin events, political system, really citizenship, player run shops, taverns with parlor games, top tier character customization, transmog cosmetic collection, 64 different class combinations, 3 forms of player housing, both open world and
Yo, Intrepid Studios, if you're watching right now, because you 100% aren't, but if you're watching right now, okay, if you need someone to actually playtest the game that's not gonna brown nose your entire project, then just DM me, please. Thank you. I actually would love to do that. I really would love to know how the combat is developing. I would love to know that. Obviously, I couldn't share that with you guys. Well, I would love to take a look and what they have planned, you know?
Instanced, achievements, leaderboards, gathering, questing, hybrid combat system, player-driven economy with localized storage, pets, massive guild system with guild halls, both land and water mounts, and 18 different biomes in the world.
Class.
Every week or two, the season changes, which makes zones feel completely different.
I think racial abilities are even fine. I even think racial abilities are gonna be fine. I think it's fine if there's some racial abilities that are broken in some scenarios. But you need to, if you have like very impactful racial abilities, they also need to have niches, right? Like that every race has use, at least. Right? I think that could be interesting.
And if all of that wasn't enough, something I often forget is that the game will have an entire arcade-style naval system where you can sail across the ocean on massive ships and partake in naval PvP and naval trade routes. I've probably forgot to mention a few features in that little ramble, but my point is, this game will be bloody huge. So huge that I can totally understand why people have been skeptical about the project since the inception.
This is the new combat.
But at this point, we have seen most of these things that I've mentioned at some point in development live streams in recent years, so it's definitely all stuff that's being worked on. The only content we haven't seen much of at this point is the naval aspect of the game, although recently we've been shown some 3D models for the ships, as well as a giant sea monster boss, so hopefully we'll see more of that soon. At this point, you're probably saying, wow,
I mean,
Peon,
video is
all of
way
that sounds
less
great, but I don't want to wait until 2030 to play this thing. Hasn't the game been in development for years already? Yes, it has. But unfortunately, my MMO hungry friends, this is a genre where games take a long ass time to make. ESO, Lost Ark and Arcade, for example, all took over 7 years of development until launch. Final Fantasy XIV was in development for 9 years before A Realm Reborn released. Right now, Ashes of Creation is about 5.5 years into development, and with it being a particularly ambitious project, I still think we've got a while to wait. That being said, since moving to Unreal Engine 5, their development speed seems to have gone through the roof.
By the way, it's also a really good call that they went there with Unreal Engine 5. I think that's the best fucking thing they could have done. And that also means they're down for the future, and that also means this engine will be way more optimized, right? So I think Unreal Engine 5 moving is really, really good. And I mean, obviously, not only graphically, but also that's gonna be an engine that's probably way better optimized. I don't know, I'm not a tech guy, but I'm assuming, right?
Roof with significant progress shown every live stream, so maybe it's closer than we think. So far, I've only explained the unique aspects of Ashes of Creation, the things it's doing to push the genre forward, but the game also has a lot of other features that you're likely familiar with from other MMOs. So next I'm going to break down everything the game has into the following categories: PvE content, PvP content, roleplay content, the world, professions, class and combat system.
One thing they have to do though, okay? Listen, chat, okay? I watch these development updates every month, even if I don't stream them. And one thing they really need to do is they need to sit someone down that knows how to play the game, and not Steven. Like, as much as he's like lovely and he's nice to listen to and everything, but half the time he has no idea what button he's pressing. So it would be nice to see like at what point of the development the combat actually is, if it's in someone's hands that actually knows how to really like make use of the combat, right? I think that would be very interesting. Also, hold on, we'll do Tower Fantasy after anyways. Okay.
This is such a colossal game with so many different aspects to it, it's impossible for me to talk about every feature in depth and answer every question you might have.
Then again, at the same time, I think oversharing like little animation cancels and stuff you can do could also be bad, because then people don't explore it themselves, right? But like, there's a line in between that, right?
Thankfully, there's a fantastic resource already available called the Ashes of Creation Wiki.
Please don't hire
that's constantly being updated and has thousands of pages worth of information. Any specific questions you might have, check the wiki and there's a 99% chance you'll get an answer. Shout out to Lex, who's been keeping this up to date over the years. The PvE content in Ashes looks a little bit like this. Content is tailored for group sizes of 40, 16 and 8 player groups. The maximum size of a party is 8 players. Dungeons are designed for these 8 player parties. 20% of dungeon and raid content is instanced, whilst 80% are open world. Raids and dungeons are designed for group sizes of either 16
I didn't know that. Did you saw Blue Protocol? Way more polished game than any of the anime gacha wannabe MMOs? Yeah, Blue Protocol is also one of those enigmas that no one ever knows when that's actually fucking coming out, and it doesn't have PvP, so I'm already less interested. But I'll probably try it when it comes out, like any MMO. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel. I already read that. Seems combat is as good as Neeko's buses. My buses are big, dude. It has much to do that I wouldn't be able to do a daily stuff. Even if it says I had 60 hours, not like Lost Ark, Burnout, grind 10 characters. I mean, that's kind of what a sandbox MMO is, and I think that's what they're trying to make here, right? Which I always say as well, like, you don't want to develop a game where your entire player base just waits for content updates. That's a horrible state to be in, and it also puts horrible pressure on the devs, and it's just not a good experience. And that's why theme park MMOs will always be inferior to sandbox, because if you have a sandbox, like, obviously Minecraft isn't an MMO, but Minecraft, there's a billion fucking things you can do. Speed runs of every fucking category in the universe. There's a billion things. People build fucking Lord of the Rings places and whatever, right? Like, there's so much that people are still playing, and the game is so old already, and the content updates are nice, but the base game needs to be fun, so people keep doing what they want to do, right? Like, if you have a sandbox world where there's a million things you can do, obviously that's hard to develop, but that means that your player will be engaged even if there's not a content update, you know? And even if there's no fucking big new raid patch, you know? It's important that they do something that is fun every stage of the way, and no matter what you do. And that you can also create maybe new things in a way, right? That allows you freedom in not only maybe combat freedom, as in you have your own little combo section. You can also augment the skills a lot. He will probably talk about that. And like all of this other stuff they already have in place, but also that the world is a sandbox. That you can do a little bit more with the world than just looking at it like in most MMOs, right? So I think that's all really important. And also, and this is a direct shout out to Intrepid again, don't make the game too easy. You will literally hurt every single developer's time if you design all of these bosses and mobs and they're piss easy and people just like steamroll over everything, because then the entire design of the mobs and the monsters and the bosses is irrelevant if it just lasts a quarter of a second to kill a mob, you know?
40 players, and raids and dungeons both use the adaptive difficulty system that I spoke about earlier in this video. Ashes of Creation will have many world bosses designed to be contested by large groups of players and guilds. These world bosses will have a chance to drop legendary equipment and a tiny chance to drop eggs that can hatch into non-permanent, limited time flying mounts. Due to how they're designed, world bosses are also likely to attract open world PvP with multiple guilds fighting for the glory of the boss kill and loot. Monster Coin events are another PvEVP event that I spoke about previously. These horde defense style events are likely to spawn following the leveling of a node or a world boss being killed. Quests are another form of PvE content, and they come in multiple forms: events, tasks, narrative quests, daily quests, epic and legendary quests, racial quests, class quests, and caravan quests. Jumping puzzles will also be another fun aspect of PvE in Ashes of Creation.
Okay, actually we can talk about that. I actually also like jumping puzzles a lot, which will never happen in Lost Ark, because in Lost Ark you just press G. But I think jumping puzzles are badass, and I love them in Guild Wars as well, so this is a good idea. Also, what was the point? Oh yeah, full rotation to kill a boar in WoW. Okay, hear me out. WoW combat in the old school WoW, or like classic WoW, was pretty fucking like basic, right? You had your global cooldown, you have your auto attacks, and that was basically it. Obviously there's more depth to it, especially in PvP, but like let's just keep it at that, okay? So now if you think about that though, you have a lot of resource management, and like you went up to a raptor camp in the Barrens, if you remember that, and you attack one raptor, and all of a sudden that motherfucker starts screaming, and there's 4 raptors all of a sudden on you, and you're just gonna die, right? So there's still something that engages you, if even in such basic combat, and that's something they also need to think about, right? Can I pull this mob right now? Does this make sense? I know this mob can stun me. What if the mob pulls another one or something like that? You know what I mean? Like something that makes you at least think about pulling a mob. Oh, can I actually do this? Oh, there's like 15 mobs there. I probably shouldn't go in there alone. Oh, there's an elite mob. I should probably not pull that either, or something, you know? Some way that engages you, but you just look at the the mobs that you want to engage into, right? When even trash mobs are harder, imagine you need to have to hit a perfect spot to kill a boar, otherwise that even can fuck you up. Yeah, I think it's good if even normal mobs have some degree of challenge, right? Obviously, to some people that might get frustrating, so they shouldn't probably do like a crab on the beach shouldn't absolutely destroy you probably, but it should still at least make you think and at least make you, oh, this has this mechanic, this has that mechanic. How can I like optimize this, or how can I take less damage from this, or how can this witch that I'm attacking not mana drain me so much, or like something that makes you think about it at least, you know?
You'll encounter them whilst questing and exploring dungeons. There was already a few of these present in the game during the Alpha 1 test in 2021. Next, PvP
I like harder
content,
mobs
and
in general.
yes, there's a lot of it. First, let's discuss the open world PvP flagging system, otherwise referred to as the corruption system. In most cases, if killed by another player, the only things dropped upon death are gatherable and crafting materials. There's 3 states a player can be in: green, non-combatant, purple, combatant, and red, corrupted. Each player starts out as green unless they attack or fight back with another player, at which point...
So I like this already again. I just hope the corrupted aren't too fucked, you know? I wonder how this was a problem in BDO for a long time, that no one wanted to go red because it was just non-sustainable. But I think this is also cool that you can attack people at all times, right? And even someone that is just out there chopping wood, you can just say, yo, what up? I'm going to destroy you. And then, but obviously this has a consequence as well, that you then, you know, will be a combatant and stuff like that, right? So
point they'll turn purple. Green non-combatant players who don't want to engage in PvP are still incentivized to at least run away or fight back, as being killed as a green player will result in dropping gatherable and crafting mats at twice the rate of if they'd have died whilst purple, aka fighting back. Purple indicates a state of consensual PvP. You're actually rewarded by dropping less gatherable mats on death if you die in this state. If a purple player kills a green player, then they become red, corrupted. Corrupted players are criminals and will face increasing penalties the more green players they kill, such as dampening and even dropping their gear upon death.
Yeah, that is a
if you're
little
a green
far, maybe.
pure PvE player, you'd have to make someone pretty mad whilst gathering for them to want to turn red on you. If you haven't got any droppable crafting or gathering mats,
yeah, like
there's
obviously challenge doesn't mean the mobs just have high HP. Like we saw that a little bit in Tower Fantasy already yesterday, where we had a duel against Kira and we were both literally just wet noodle fighting, and there was the fucking like took 2.5 years to even do any damage, and that you can also apply that to PvE stuff, right? Like that's also gonna be like, if you just increase health and whatever of the mob and that's about it, and you just prolong the fight, that's not gonna feel like exciting to do, right? But if there's like a huge boar boss, okay, that spawned somewhere on a node and it's just terrorizing everyone, and you're like, how, like it just walking around the thing, you're like, this is scary, you know, this could be dangerous and stuff like that. How you doing, Amber? Yeah, something you need to think about this, of course, a little bit more than just health or whatever.
Absolutely no benefit for someone to flag and kill you, so don't worry about people standing outside of nodes just spawn killing PvE players. Most of the time it won't be worth it. If that is something you're worried about though, a bounty hunter system will also exist.
That's cool.
Where bounty hunters can hunt down corrupted players for rewards.
The bounty hunter!
Node sieges and castle sieges. These are two different things. A node siege is where players band together to destroy a node, resetting its level to allow adjacent nodes to progress to higher stages. The higher the level of the node, the more work is required to fulfill the prerequisites to declare the siege. Any player can declare a node siege, and once declared, a countdown begins, giving players anywhere between 2 to 5 days notice, depending on the level of the node, to prepare for the impending battle. Players cannot transport goods from their warehouse during this time, and many services in the node will also be disabled until the outcome of the siege is decided.
I love sieges.
Castle sieges are massive, large-scale 250 vs 250 player battles for guilds that occur once per month.
You know what's also cool about this kind of stuff, which also only works in a third-person MMO? Having like small little pathways in the castle, or small little jumping puzzles, or something that isn't even intended, so you can find your way into the castle or into the enemy backline through something that they haven't anticipated, you know, or something like there's also these siege towers you can bring or something like that. Like there's so much strategy to these that it's just like in any game, even in Guild Wars, where I wasn't a big fan of GVG, but even there it was really fun, or BDO sieges, which were so fucking fun for a long time, because it has real implications in the game, right? And that just makes it more exciting, and everyone's like, oh my god, what's gonna happen here? Are these people gonna take over this node now? What's gonna happen to the taxes? Oh my god, are they gonna liberate us from the horrible taxes, or are they gonna make it worse, or whatever? Like there's always, because people are invested in these nodes, right? So that makes this entire content more relevant for every player, even the people that aren't taking part in this, right?
Castles in the world. Castle sieges will have multiple
sieges in New
objectives
World
for
were
both
fine.
attackers and
Although
defenders,
they were trash as
and
fuck,
might
but
also
even that was
include raid
fun.
bosses that attackers can slay
Even
for
that was
certain
fun.
buffs. These battles will include siege weapons such as catapults, trebuchets, cannons, and ballistas, and there will be a great deal of prestige and rewards for guilds that manage to own one of the 5 castles in the world. Guilds can declare war on each other via the guild war system. Once a war has been declared, players in those guilds can kill each other without penalties.
I like that too.
Guild wars will have
BDO.
victory and surrender conditions, with guild war objectives spawning during the server's prime time.
I like that too.
When it comes to battlegrounds, Ashes of Creation will not have traditional MMORPGs where you can queue and are
I think that's
teleported to
okay,
an instance.
although I like BGs.
However, the game will have a gladiator-style last man standing arena where players can battle to become the mayor of militaristic nodes.
We know that.
Caravan PvP is something I spoke about earlier and will be a big catalyst for PvP in the open world.
Daily
And the game will
execution.
have instanced arenas for 1v1, 3v3 and 5v5
So
player
that's
group
cool.
sizes, as well as the ability for players to duel each other for fun. Role players rejoice because Ashes of Creation certainly hasn't forgotten about you. In fact, quite the opposite. This could be one of the most RP-friendly MMOs ever made. First off, the game will have 9 different playable races, no gender or race-locked classes, each of which have their own architectural influence on the nodes they contribute the most XP to. You've got the Kalar and Veloon humans, the Dunir and Neeko2lo dwarves, the Renkai and Vek orcs,
I'm gonna be an
Empyrean
orc.
and
Or a
Pyre
dwarf.
elves,
Probably not a dwarf.
and the recently revealed TheLazyPeon.
I think
Earlier
I'm
this
gonna
year,
be an
Intrepid
orc. I think
revealed
I'm
to
gonna be
us their
that guy.
top-tier character customization suite, which, although at the time wasn't completely finished, was already up there as being one of the most in-depth in the MMO genre, right up there with Black Desert's character creator. But what's a good character creator without a good fashion and transmog system, right? In this game, you'll be able to collect appearances of weapons, armor, and accessories and apply it to what you've currently got equipped, similar to WoW's transmog system or Guild Wars 2's wardrobe system.
I'm not the biggest fan of this. I think it's cooler if you're just wearing the gear that you're actually wearing, like visually as well, because then you have more visual progression in your character as well. But I also think transmog systems are cool because there's a lot of collectibles in that, and you can have really cool looking characters. And there could obviously also be outfits and like a cloak or shoulder pieces or something that are really rare or really hard to get, so you can still have that visual progression to an extent, right? But yeah.
You will also be able to dye your gear. Additionally, those monthly cosmetic packs you've probably heard people complaining about in the past,
Yeah, me too.
will be one-piece outfits similar to how it works in Guild Wars 2. You won't be able to mix and match armor components from these full costumes, meaning the most unique transmog combinations won't be something you can just buy from the cosmetic shop. We've already touched on player housing earlier in this video, but to reiterate, they
bikini
come
skins,
in 3
please.
types. Instance departments within nodes that anyone can gain access to for citizenship, real space in-node housing that level up with the node, and real space freeholds, which are set-sized plots of land located within a node's area of influence. You'll be able to decorate your player housing with furniture, craft and process materials at your freehold, and obviously throw kinky ERP parties in your house with other players. I don't want the kinky part. Which, let's be honest, is 90% of the reason why people RP in MMOs. Situated inside nodes or freeholds, taverns are buildings that act as a social hub for players to relax, roleplay, buy consumables, play music, gain rested XP by renting a room, or partake in parlor games together. It's also possible that proximity voice chat will be enabled inside of taverns, although this we
need way more of these kind of things in games, like with taverns and like card games in the taverns, and like having some sort of social activities or some shit in there.
Some testing. When it comes to emotes, Ashes of Creation will have all the standard animations you'd expect in an MMORPG, as well as consensual multiplayer emotes such as dancing and hugging. Additionally, you'll be able to interact with the environment by leaning on walls, sitting down, vaulting over fences, mantling and crouching. As previously mentioned, Ashes of Creation will have a political system where players can compete to become the mayor of the node in numerous ways. From this, good mayors and bad mayors will emerge, which in itself is another aspect of roleplay. And finally, yes, marriage, including same-sex marriages, will be a thing in Ashes of Creation.
We knew that.
Marriage will allow player housing permissions to be shared, and a quest might appear related to a marriage ceremony. This system isn't 100% fleshed out as of making this video, but it will be in the game in one form or another. Next, let's discuss the world of Ashes of Creation, starting with server size, which Intrepid are aiming to support 8,000 to 10,000 concurrent players online at one time.
And I think that's good. But this is gonna be hard. This is gonna be really hard to do. Like, imagine a server where 10,000 people are fucking doing something at the same time.
5 times the number of players that New World's servers can currently handle. When it comes to server locations, the most recent info I could find is that they plan on having servers for the following regions: North America, Europe, Asia Pacific and Australia. However, other server regions such as South America are under consideration. Stephen, if you're watching this video, please heavily consider adding Southeast Asia servers.
I think so too.
So many people here love MMOs that
I think also South American fans, that's a huge player base, I think, in every MMO. And Southeast Asia as well. I think that would be not a bad idea for sure.
We have to get wrecked by 150 to 200 ping connecting to Australia. I'm sure the same could be said for South America connecting to NA2. You're making the most highly anticipated MMO globally, and after all these years of development and anticipation, it'd be a big shame if large regions of people couldn't enjoy it to its fullest due to ping and server regions. As previously mentioned, the world in Ashes will be 480.
You have like the dark Alps. I like how many mountains there are. I think that's gonna be very picturesque. And there's like more lush areas as well. Desert, snow. I don't know what this is supposed to be here. The Dragon Mountains or something. I think it's cool that there's also like a lot of water everywhere. That the boats are more relevant. This is probably like a tropical area here. I think there's like one dwarven race, right? There's one dwarven race that's like a tropical race.
Kilometers squared at launch, which includes land and water.
It's actually the opposite, Kira. These kind of super social games are the perfect spot for people like me or you, and we just sneak up in the open world, and there's some fucking ERP going on, and they have like a caravan, and you're just like, let's destroy them, and then you just go in there and you steal all their shit, and then they're mad, right? Perfect. Like that, yeah.
100 kilometers squared for the Underrealm.
Yeah, it's
the world
perfect.
will be ever changing thanks to the node system and seasons, but I've already gone in depth on those systems at the start of this video, so best not to repeat myself further. When it comes to fast travel and flying mounts, the world of Ashes is designed so that distance and scale matters. Fast travel will be limited to the superpower of a scientific node at Metropolis level, allowing players to teleport to smaller nodes within the Metropolis zone of influence, and a family summon.
For the people that actually remember this, maybe this game might be the rebirth of Cicada, or a new guild that I make. Who knows?
With a long cast time that can be used on up to 8 family members. Flying mounts will be extremely rare and limited in duration, with them being obtained via legendary drop eggs from world bosses, or obtainable to mayors of Metropolis nodes, as well as guild leaders owning one of the 5 castles in-game. Out of 10,000 players per server, there's likely to only be between 10 and 15 players who have access to flying mounts at a time.
I think
this
that's
game
also
isn't
good.
designed around flying. If you ever get to experience it, then it's a great achievement, or you've been extremely lucky.
Imagine I'm on this fucking thing here. Like, imagine, okay, I'm like the best player on the server, of course, right? And I have the best flying mount, and I'm just soaring over like an enemy player city, an enemy guild city or some shit, and they're like, look at that. That's the TheLazyPeon. You see? Like that's what's gonna happen.
Access to flying mounts at a time. This game isn't designed around flying. If you ever get to experience it, then it's a great achievement, or you've been extremely lucky.
Yeah.
For the most part, you'll travel around the world via ground mounts, water mounts, or ships if you wish to traverse the Great Ocean.
I like the
As
frog.
I previously mentioned, Ashes will have a fully explorable ocean similar to Arcade. There will be coastal nodes, harbours, naval caravans, treasure hunting, underwater dungeons, naval quests, naval PvP, and multiple different ship sizes ranging from small, medium, and large. Similar to Arcade, there will also be giant sea monster world bosses.
I really want to play
like
test
the
Ashes.
which was recently teased
I wrote them.
and
I wrote them a
present in
Twitter
Alpha
or something.
2.
What is it? Was it a Twitter DM or something? They said, but they basically said no. This was a while ago. Maybe I should try again.
And story is definitely something that's present in Ashes of Creation. However, it's not one of those MMOs where you're the chosen one, hero of light, center of the universe, god of all things, with NPCs worship.
You know, like, that's the plan. Okay, I'm gonna help them make the perfect game ever, right? I don't even need payment. Okay, I'm gonna help them. And then, when the game is released, I know everything already. And I pretend that I don't. And then I'm gonna be the #1 player, and therefore, the coolest person ever. And then, that's how it works, right? That's the plan.
You upon sight because you followed the same linear story as millions before you. Storytelling will be more based on learning about past events in the lore, self-contained short story quests, and the overarching story of the world's development. This game actually has a ton of lore, with a lot of stuff being kept secret for launch, but you can read more about that stuff on the wiki, as this video is starting to get pretty long as it is. The artisan class and profession system in Ashes looks something like this. You've got 3 artisan classes: gathering, processing, or crafting, each of which contain various professions. Gathering professions include farming, fishing, herbalism, lumberjacking, mining, and taming.
Taming? Did we know about that? I know about animal husbandry, I know that. I wanna do... What's that? This is Ashes, oddly. Probably not gonna release for a while, but we are keeping up to date. How about... Animal husbandry means you can breed animals. And you can make new mounts and stuff. The class named Solfus? Not yet. I want to definitely do fishing. I usually love fishing in games. Normally fishing is trash though. But fishing and mining probably.
Farming, fishing, herbalism, lumberjacking, mining, and taming. Processing professions include animal husbandry and smelting, and crafting professions include alchemy, armorsmithing, blacksmithing, caravan building, carpentry, cooking, jewel crafting, scribes, shipbuilding, siege weapons, and weaponsmithing.
I want to
be a
weaponsmith.
Only master up to a maximum of 2 professions within one artisan class. So let's say you choose to be a gatherer. You could max out mining and lumberjacking, but
I'm gonna do... I mean, listen, if I'm gonna be a weaponsmith, I can't be a fisherman, right? Let's be honest. Yeah. I'm good, man. So I think I probably gotta go mining, lumberjacking, I guess. And then I'm gonna make weapons. This is Ashes, yes sir.
Could not max out mining and alchemy. If you're a crafter, you could choose to max out cooking and jewel crafting, but you could not max out cooking and smelting. To get around this limitation, you may use alts or join guilds and work together to fulfill your crafting needs. I'm not gonna play no alts, man. The most unique profession in Ashes of Creation has to be animal husbandry, in which you can breed different animals together to create weird and wonderful hybrid mounts, like this wonderful half-griffin, half-butterfly, raccoon monstrosity. Finally, let's discuss what for many people is the most important thing about Ashes of Creation, the combat and class system. Ashes of Creation will have a hybrid combat system similar to Guild Wars 2. In previous videos, I couldn't really show you what this combat would look like, but recently they've made substantial progress and shown off some basic melee weapon attacks.
This video was the first time I watched an Ashes of Creation update and I was like, this could actually be pretty decent. I think, as I said before, I think the combat is, if it looks like this, more polished and has a lot of skill customization, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like if it's like the one they showed with more skill custom, like a lot of skill customization and a lot of depth and like maybe some animation canceling, sign me up. I'm down.
And boy, does it look a hell of a lot better than the combat the game had in past tests. As this system is in the middle of a full redesign and we haven't even had the chance to see a lot of the redesigned abilities yet, I'm not going to talk too in depth on it, but basically when it's done, expect Guild Wars 2 combat, but better. Some abilities need to be targeted, whilst others are AoE telegraph and frontal cone attacks. You'll be able to dodge, blink and iframe depending on your class. A lot of effort is going into audio-visual feedback, and as you can see by the damage numbers, they're going with something that looks very vanilla WoW, which I personally love. Keep an eye out for more updates on this system.
Fun fact, we talked about the damage numbers a lot. Like back when Classic WoW released, I talked a little bit to Peon, and I think he talked a little bit with them about that, but I'm not sure. So that's, I think,
over the next few,
I think having like a more, you see these like damage numbers a little bit like Classic WoW is really cool. I really like that.
Far, the new design direction is looking very good.
And I'm happy
when
that
it comes to
I'm happy that they changed it, because back in the day their damage numbers were kind of scuffed.
Classes, Ashes of Creation is using a similar system to Arcade, but instead of a possible 220 classes, there's 64 different possible class combos in Ashes. The way this works is you've got 8 primary classes.
Yeah, we looked at this before as well. This has been out for a while. So, listen guys. I don't know what I would do. I don't want to be a summoner, I know that. Maybe like a... Wild Blade? I think that sounds so cool too, man. Like a blade dancer. Oh, that is so cool. Blade dancer sounds so badass. Wild Blade. I don't know if I would want to play a summoner of any sort. to be honest. I hate having to like micromanage pets and shit. Rogue Shadow Guardian. I kind of want to have a tank. I kind of want to be a tank with something that does damage. Or like a fighter. Like I want to be somewhat tanky at least. Like maybe a cleric fighter, a high sword. That could be cool too. Cleric fighter. But there's two different ones, no? Oh, because this is the base class. Okay, you could be a Templar or a high sword. Yeah, I want to play a bruiser. High priest? I don't know. Fucking, I don't know. There's no clown. Okay, calm down.
Cleric, fighter, mage, ranger, rogue, summoner, and tank. You can then choose a secondary class out of the same 8 options to determine your overall class. If your primary class...
my main class has to be fighter, probably. Fighter or tank, right? So we only have these two. So Apostle, Templar. That sounds cool too. A Siren. I mean, that sounds pretty cool. That's a cool ass class name, a Siren. I don't really want to be a bard though, I don't think. Strider, duelist, battle mage. Wild Blade, Templar. I don't know.
Class is fighter and your second class is also fighter, you'd be a weapon master, for example. Mage primary, summoner secondary would be warlock. Summoner primary, mage secondary would be spellmancer. You get the idea. When it comes to leveling, the level cap at launch will be level 50, and it's intended to take roughly 45 days of playing 4 to 6 hours per day to reach max level.
I like that.
At each level, you'll receive various...
Okay, this is a big one.
45 days.
Between 180 and 270 hours to reach max level. Which makes sense in a game like this that isn't Lost Ark, because the leveling is actually going to be the main game, right? Like, leveling is going to be a part of the main experience. It's not going to be some fucking afterthought tutorial bullshit, but it's going to be like actually the game, right?
Of playing 4 to 6 hours per day to reach max level. At each level you'll receive various rewards, from skill points to new quest unlocks and other stuff to make leveling feel rewarding. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you've just been absolutely battered with information, and my brain is starting to shut down from the sheer amount of research and writing that's gone into this video. It's been 5 years since my first Ashes of Creation vid back in 2017, and the footage of the game back then compared to now is completely unrecognisable. Intrepid Studios has grown to a team size of over 150 developers, attracting some of the best MMO talent from North America, and since the upgrade to Unreal Engine 5, they've been absolutely pumping out substantial progress with every dev live stream. Some might say that I shouldn't hype this game so much, and it's still just a pipe dream, but honestly I think there's nothing wrong with getting excited for a new MMO, especially in a genre that's been so full of disappointment for so many years.
Cautiously optimistic, okay? Be realistic, and like, if they do some bullshit, call them out for it. Third person MMO feels old. Guys, as much as I like Lost Ark, third person MMOs are way fucking better. Or like the approach of third person is way better than top down for an MMO. Way better. Like you have way more freedom. You have vertical stuff, so jumping, jump attacks. Like you can jump down on people and ambush them. Like it's just, you have way more freedom. Way more freedom. And you can also outplay people way more with third person. So if you like that, Ali, get on it. Top down is so restrictive. So restrictive. It's no.
The excitement, anticipation, and speculation of a new MMO is almost as fun as playing it at this point, but hey, maybe you could say I'm high on copium.
What the hell is this? No, what's going on? Sir,
It's the guy that always has the Ashes
spike in the
videos.
copium levels. What do we do?
Yes, I felt it. It's time. Initiate Operation Hopium.
But that's
like
it for this video, guys. This one took a ton of work to make, so please help me out by leaving a comment, destroying that like button for the algorithm gods, and if you plan on playing Ashes anyway, signing up for the game using my referral code. Let me know your thoughts on Ashes of Creation in the comments below, and have you changed your mind on the project in recent years as more stuff has been shown? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Give the man a like, give the man a sub. Banger video as always, sir.